Hello and welcome back to the Nine Sports Podcast. My name is Kathleen and I host the weekly soccer edition of our show. I have a special guest joining us today, Thomas Costello, who just covered the NWSL Challenge Cup for us in Columbus. How are you?
I'm doing great. I didn't hear the music this time. The intro music wasn't piped in, and it didn't scare me. I was waiting to be scared because the last time I was here, it frightened me. And when it didn't pop up, I kind of missed it. But I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always shockingly loud in my headphones, so I have to prepare
Mhm.
myself.
Ah,
Before we get into the match, let's chat about our top story of the week or number one at the nine. Sam Kerr is official, going to Gotham, kind of rejoining Gotham, rejoining the league. Kind of awkward timing on the announcement, waiting until after the match. But what did they have to say, if anything, when you chatted with Gotham?
yeah, we had to talk to Rose and Emily beforehand, Tierna Davidson also. And folks weren't really asking about Sam. It seemed like, now, to be fair, this is a neutral site match. You had a lot of local press there. Um, Folks who are like, hey, who's this person? Who's that? Like trying to help in the media availability, like out in the field. Who's that person? They're trying to identify, like, where's Rose? So a lot of the questions came about, oh, you're playing in Ohio again. Like Rose she had her own media scrum the day before when nobody else had a media scrum. It was just her before the press conference. And like Izzy Rodriguez on the KC side, she
Uh-huh.
also had a lot of Ohio Central questions. So after, talked about Grader's ice cream and walking down the Scioto Mile, it was um, the questions about the roster and the game only came
Yeah.
from maybe a couple folks. I asked Rose about it, and I was like, potentially Sam is joining the team, and I didn't want to. I'm not in the game to make anybody get in trouble or anything
Right.
like that. So I said, the team hadn't announced it yet, so something could happen. You never know. Reports could be wrong, even though everybody was. I think the Athletic had it first, and then everybody started to share what was going on. So I was trying to be respectful. I was like, okay, potentially playing with Sam Kerr. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that? And Rose said, potentially, I would really be excited for that. And she really stressed on the potentially paused. Emily, who is, if none of you have ever interviewed Emily Sonnet listening to this, we were talking about this before the show. Like, there's an intensity. You see it on the field whenever
Yeah.
she's playing. She kind of brings that same intensity in interviews and conversations. And it's always it's pleasant, and she gives great answers, and she thinks about what she wants to say. But Emily just gives you that eye contact. So I asked about Sam to her, and she talked about just the environment of Kansas City and how Kansas City is built, or not. Oh my gosh, they were playing Kansas City. Gotham um, is built to bring in this sort of world class type talent, and how this is a
Yeah.
place that people want to play. So Emily never really mentioned Sam or never really referred to Sam playing on the team, but just how
Uh-huh.
Gotham is a place that players like that want to play. I mean, with a roster like Gotham has, um, you can't really argue with anything she was saying.
Right. Well, and I mean, expectedly very professional PR answers from both of them, but
Yeah.
with a
Yeah,
little
Tierna did not
humorous
chime
nod.
in. Tierna did not chime in, but it was just, yeah, Emily, and she had just gotten finished talking about re-signing with Gotham
Uh-huh.
through the next couple of seasons, and how this was a place that she wanted to play just because it is so competitive, and just because they do care about the roster. And I
Yeah.
just hope there's no like audits or anything for the Gotham, because it's you have a lot of names on the same roster, and I
Yeah.
am not an expert in NWSL finances or the financial rules, but there's a murmuring out there of like, how can they do this? How can they have so much talent
Yeah.
on you're the championship winning team? You're giving up less than half a goal a match, and now you've
Yeah.
added one of the top striker in world soccer over the last, what, 7 years? Like,
Yeah.
that's wild. Yeah, that's wild.
It is wild. Yeah, it's a little bit of like an NBA. Did we all take like a slight pay cut situation to build our super team? But I
Right.
liked it.
And
It
I
was
mean, Rose is leaving. Rose is a free agent after this season.
yes.
So maybe there's thoughts that maybe Rose isn't going to stay. Maybe there's other stuff that they're banking on in the future. I know Katie Lampson, Katie Stengel, she retired today, that's not going to be a lot off the books. I think that looks a lot like, oh, Sam Kerr's on the team. We also
Yeah.
have Jordan Dudley and Jaden Shaw. I don't think my time is really gonna. I have a feeling it was either you're going to leave, you're being released, or you can retire. And Katie's been playing for so long and hopping from one side
Yeah.
of the world to the other to keep going. And she's great. She can clean up a goal up there with anybody. She is like the master of the ugly goal. Just clean the ball up,
Mhm.
get it into the back of the net. And she's had some, huge goals that have kind of outlined recent history in the NWSL. But losing her, I mean, that does help, but she was not getting paid what Sam Kerr is going to get paid.
And tell me about the environment, I guess, just being in
Yeah.
Columbus, being in Ohio, getting ready for this new NWSL franchise.
No, they've hosted a couple She Believes Cups since they
Mhm.
opened the new uh Scott's Miracle. I almost call it Lower.com Field. That's what it was for years. Now it's Scott's Miracle
Yes.
Grow Field as they changed over. And now that Nationwide is part owner, they really don't want to have, a banking company as somebody sponsoring your building when
Right.
Nationwide does banking themselves. They've hosted She Believes a couple times, and it's always brought out a great crowd. I think it was sold out or nearly sold out last time in a stadium that holds roughly around 20,000 or so, maybe like 19,000. I don't have the specific figure, but they always brought out a great crowd, and it always was loud in there. And especially whenever you think about the local player like Rose, even though she's from Cincinnati, she's local enough. Or Emma
Mhm.
Sears, who lived in Dublin, Ohio, a suburb of Columbus, went to Ohio State, now plays for Racing. Those players always got a big response. But the U.S. Women's National Team also just they bring people to wherever they're playing. They get butts into
True.
the seats. But NWSL, I was hesitant. I was like, "Oh, what's it going to be like in Columbus?" I wasn't expecting U.S. Women's National Team crowd. I wasn't expecting red, white, blue everywhere and a huge, like, full stadium. The day before, we didn't know the attendance numbers. They weren't shared or anything until inside the match. Rose had heard 14,000. Now, I'll tell you, the day of Friday, it rained all day. There was even a chance of storms. I was looking at the radar and I was doing my best meteorologist type post about, hey, it could be storming around the time the match starts, but end up no storms, no delays or anything. But it's just like a blanket of rain the whole time. Uh, for the fans, it's not a big deal because they have a roof covering just the fans, and they have one of those, rectangular open roofs in the middle where the players are getting soaked, but not any of the fans. Even though they had over 11,000, that just under 12,000 people show up. And I asked Rose after the match, I asked some of the players after the match, especially US Women's National Team players like Rose, like Emily,
Mhm.
and they said it was comparable. They said the sound inside of there and the response, it was loud. It was loud,
Good.
and not just when, like, Rose touched the ball, not just when, the fan favorites from the area got involved in it, but Emily was even saying as the teams were building up, you could hear the crowd, like, momentum building as they were going. And Kansas City had players say it was hard to hear each other sometimes. So
Yeah.
the players seemed really positive about it. Nobody was like, "Oh, well, the crowd was a little low." No, it was a good crowd. It was a loud environment. I think that the NWSL, working with, what USM's national team, I'm sure, getting Columbus
Mhm.
onto the map, getting them into the She Believes matches, which Columbus is, we we believe that Columbus is the unofficial home of U.S. soccer in the United States. From the men's side
Yes.
and the Dos de Cero history, and the women's side, we hosted women's World Cup matches. I think Abby Wambach
Mhm.
scored her first World Cup goal in Columbus. So Columbus has always kind of attached itself to the U.S. soccer team on both sides, but um, NWSL really kind of, I would say, followed suit. It was a big family environment. You had pockets folks in NWSL jerseys, supporters from the
Hmm.
different groups that might have traveled out there. But it was a lot of, I would say, local family like environment, which a lot of that carries over to NWSL matches, but you didn't have as much, I would say, of the like fervent match like team supporters there. Because
Yeah.
this Challenge Cup, you're balancing a trophy, sure, but it also feels kind of exhibition-y. Um,
Yeah.
so you didn't have a huge groups of fans traveling. There were traveling fans there, like Cloud9 had their banners in the Nordeck, which is the north section of the stadium, named after the north corner on the old stadium. They just kept the name, even though it's not in a corner anymore. Sorry to anybody who
Yeah.
knows German. It's like, no, that's not a corner. Um, and another fun thing, they added a stage to the supporter section. So at a stage
Oh,
where the halftime show took place, there was a band up there. There are all sorts of lights and stuff. It was a cool way to be able to have a halftime performance at a soccer match, so you don't interrupt the 15 minutes back at it.
yeah.
But that was cool. I think that it showed that the city is receptive to an NWSL team. Now, what will that look like in 2028? There's going to be initial hype, of course. There's going to be that excitement. I think the questions in the media area when we were all chatting about this was, how is it going to look when you need to sustain that? How is Columbus going to respond? Maybe if your team's not great after the first
Yeah.
year, you like Denver can fill out a stadium for their initial match, or Boston can bring in a ton of people for their initial
Hmm.
match. But what's going to happen when you're not winning matches? How are you going to keep
Yeah.
people going? How is the city going to respond? And so those are questions for 2 years from now. But right now, I think initially the supporters in the area are excited, and I think they'll end up showing up.
How easy is it to get to and from that stadium? I mean, if that is kind of a factor we're thinking about too.
There's close parking to it. I think most people park a little further out. It's in an area of Columbus called the Arena District. So the Scott's Miracle-Gro Field is right there, and then a block or two away from it is Huntington Park, which is where the Columbus Clippers play, Cleveland Guardians AAA team, and then take another couple blocks up, and you have Nationwide Arena where the Blue Jackets play and the Columbus Fury play, and they're hosting the Final Four in 2027 there for the
Yeah.
second time, and arguably they had one of the best Final Fours there when they had multiple game winning shots. Enrique hitting the game winning shot for Notre Dame, getting them the test. So it's in an area that already has a lot of stuff going on. It's a Dora area too, so you can walk around and folks can drink legally outdoors and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I would say it's an area built for walking around and just enjoying things that are going on. Uh, it, with that said, it is kind of stuck at the end of a road where if you do park over there, it can kind of be
Uh-huh.
difficult getting out at the end of the night. Um, but there's so much parking around there. There's so many things to do. You can walk around and do stuff in Columbus that um, it's not really too much of an issue. It's not out in the middle of nowhere like some of
Yeah.
these stadiums can be. It is pretty much in the heart of where most public things are happening in downtown Columbus.
I was telling my friend when we were leaving the men's World Cup match the other day in Kansas City that I am so spoiled by like our sports reporter timeline of not leaving a game or not even trying till
Yeah.
like an hour and a half later. And it's so easy to find your car. It's so easy to
Mhm.
get out. You're not
Yeah,
just sitting in a line the whole time.
it's great. And then if you get there early enough before other, because we get there before they open the gates, we're allowed to get there before we open the gates.
Yeah.
I love flashing my media credential to the security guard, and they let me drive right by the stadium,
Oh
drive
yeah.
through everything. It's nice. It's nice. There are rumors that they're building condos behind the stadium where we park right now. So I don't know how that's
Okay.
going to change in 2 years, but really any sort of flat lot in Columbus is turning into a condo at some point.
Yeah, Kansas City's kind of learning on the fly and developing this like entertainment district around their stadium. Because obviously the team started and then they built the stadium. And then they just got their streetcar stop like 2.5 years in. Um, but the streetcar isn't like really convenient. And it still drops you off, I think, about a half mile away from the stadium. So it, now they have to bring in golf carts and they have to do all of that for accessibility concerns. And then the parking lots are still gravel. And so it's been really interesting.
Probably
But
really fun when it rains too. Sure,
we'll
it's really
see
great.
how they kind of adjust that. They are building apartments right next to it. And then it's like down along the river. So obviously you're gonna you have a lot of roads stopping there. And then there are like train tracks and crisscrossing
There's
highways. So
potential though. There's potential, it sounds like, at least.
yeah, definitely a
Yeah,
lot of potential, but they're definitely banking on the potential as well.
yeah, yeah. Isn't the football stadium? Isn't that out in the middle of nowhere though? Like for where they're
Yes.
playing the World Cup, that is out in the middle
Yeah.
of nowhere. Okay, that's what I thought. Every time they show the stadium from out far, you're like, oh, there's nothing happening. It's just that
Yeah.
stadium.
Nothing happening.
Yeah, yeah. Fun times. But no, I'm excited for it, not just because I live in Columbus and I obviously benefit from being able to support a team that I don't have to drive 3 hours for. I was at the first Racing Louisville game when they played
Yeah.
Orlando in the Challenge Cup years 2022, 21, no, 2021. Um, but that's a rough trip going to Louisville all the time. And I eventually stopped making it. And somebody who likes to write about sports and likes to share about,
Yeah.
women's sports teams, I'm not complaining that Columbus has a team, and I think it will be exciting. I think the relationship between supporters and the Haslam family, who owns the
Hmm.
Crew, who owns the Cleveland Browns, also a part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, which doesn't apply here. But looking at Columbus and everything, I know that over the years, I would say the longer term Crew supporters who are
Yeah.
there's gonna be a lot of overlap between Crew supporters and NWSL supporters and whatever the team is named down the road. But there has been a little bit of uh, the honeymoon phase is over between the supporters and the Haslam family, I would say, over the years.
Yeah.
And it went from a stadium where we've got a waiting list for season tickets to, hey, come buy your season tickets right now. And the waiting list isn't there anymore. And it
Yeah.
feels like they're at kind of not a reckoning, but I think they're at a pivotal point in their ownership of, is this going to start to continue to slow down on the Crew side, or is the same supporter high going to be there, and can you sustain that and carry that over into the NWSL side? That's my one concern, but I'm a pessimist about some things, and team ownership is usually one of the things that my
Yeah.
pessimism seems to absorb easily.
That's fair.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, let's talk a little bit about the actual game. I know that you
yeah.
wrote your story about Jordan Dudley and you were really impressed by her. What did you kind of take away from this game? I mean, watching it on TV, I was personally not really impressed by the current and the performance they put up. First several minutes, they looked pretty solid, but then they just kind of looked lost.
They made a lot of key passes to
Mhm.
set up really good opportunities. So
Yeah.
they were at a point where if AKB wasn't back there for Gotham, I'm pretty sure Kansas City gets a goal. But goalkeeping wise, I mean, AKB was great for Gotham,
Yeah.
stopped the couple really strong chances that they had. But I mean, that defensive back line of Gotham, like I said earlier, they give up 0.45 goals per match in
Yeah.
NWSL play. No, I think they're one of only two teams that gives up less than a goal per match. So that's hard to get through. So you have to really maximize the chances that you get. And Kansas City, they just didn't do it. You traded Ali Sentinor too, so you've already lost an offensive piece. And unlike
Right.
Gotham adding Sam Kerr, Kansas City has not added somebody to
Yeah.
reinforce that offense. Now, in the press conference, Chris Armas was like, "Yeah, well, we have all these other people that can join in there. We have Dabinia who can jump into there. We have all of these folks on the team." And even Lola Bonto was like, "Hey, I could even jump into that role." And they joked
Yeah.
about it in the press conference and stuff. But you could tell that there is a transition
Yeah.
happening for sure. And I know Setnor had not lit things up and was not like a goal scoring machine for Kansas City, or else there might be a different conversation going on
Right.
here. But the little goals that you were getting are now not there.
Yeah.
And I think their offense might look like a pre Sam Kerr Gotham offense where they're struggling to consistently put up goals. And the chances again, they only had a few. In the second half, they came out stronger, but it seemed to be that, oh, we tried for about 10, 15 minutes. Oh, it's not working. And they get a
Yeah.
little well, first you're making substitutions, so you're bringing out a lot of folks. This is technically a friendly, although you do want to win a trophy. They had a stage, they had confetti, which combining confetti with a ton of rain, really great, really fantastic. All the players were kicking chunks, globs of confetti off of their cleats as they were walking um, back to their locker room. But Kansas City just kind of got demoralized early in the second half. They were doing a lot of substitutions on top of trying to come back at that point when it's just 1-0 because of the foul Levanta on Howell in the first half. Um, but yeah, Gotham didn't really look too challenged the whole night. So Jordan's goal, really a masterful kind of solo effort. She wins the ball just inside of Gotham's offensive half of the field. And her and Katie Lampson are running parallel to each other. And Katie draws in a defender, and you have an argument that, oh, Jordan could have passed it over to Katie. And, she's a veteran goal scorer and this rookie goal scorer who's fantastic, who's great. But Jordan's confidence and decision making to just be like, no,
Yeah.
I got this, and to just slot it right underneath and score that goal. That that was amazing, just because she
Yeah.
does not lack any confidence, especially as a rookie. She's picking up where she left off at Florida State. Um, but what really grabbed my attention about her play was after that, because they were up 2-0. I think they
Hmm.
have 10 minutes left. And in her offensive half of the field, she made two huge slide tackles on the sideline. They were both clean tackles while also taking out a Kansas City player in the process. But the fervor that she was still playing with, up 2-0, substitutions have been made. You've got
Yeah.
pretty almost brand new teams out onto the field. You're up 2-0. The other team has not had a sniff of the goal, I would say, in 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, I am playing 100% until this final whistle goes. Um, it's just an embarrassment of riches, I would say, at Gotham now
Yeah.
with Dudley, with Shaw, and now with Sam Kerr joining it. And oh
Yeah.
yeah, Jalen Howell and Rose Lavelle are the ones connecting everybody. And you have Tierna Davison and Emily Sonnet on the back line defending. Like, it's stupid. And I think
It is.
Jordan is going to be a big key. I don't think she's going to start now. I think that Sam
Yeah.
being in there, obviously there's going to be something of minutes lost, but she's the first one off the bench, you have to imagine, in that attack. Or are they going to find a way to? Are there going to be more moves also, or is somebody else going to go? I know Lamson, she was coming off the bench and she had big moments, but wasn't playing. She wasn't playing starter minutes. Uh, what else is going to happen to the roster around them? But
Yeah.
could you have a situation where you're trying to get Shaw and Dudley and Kerr on the field at the same time? If I was the coach, I would probably try to do that. I would probably try to get all three of them out there, because they're just going to frustrate people to no end. And I think their offense is going to match their defense, which is really scary for the
Yeah.
rest of the NWSL. Yeah.
And obviously they've done a really good job, scouting their future players, but to potentially, have two pretty good uh well, the winner last year and then a contender
Yeah.
this year, I feel like for rookie of the year. I mean, they're doing something really special with these young players too.
Yeah. I mean, you convinced Dudley to go there when she's a finalist for player of the year. Um, that they're setting themselves up for not just right now. Like, I know Kerr doesn't have a whole career in front of her. Sana doesn't have a whole career in front of her.
Right.
Rose even joked about how, like, I always feel like I'm such a young kid on the team. and I'm not young anymore. Like the players that have the name notoriety and the recognition, uh, there's going to be a time when they're not there. And the way
Yeah.
Gotham is setting up for the future with like Sean Dudley, it's I think it's great for Gotham fans, especially the former Sky Blue fans who have been through all of these different things to now be in this point. It's like waking up from a bad nightmare to see this Gotham team now compared to how this franchise has operated in years past.
Yeah. And we the media gets a chance to chat with Sam Kerr on Thursday, but were you surprised she signed through 30?
Man, no, looking at her history, yeah, she jumped around a lot in the NWSL, playing a little bit in Australia, but going to Chelsea, I think having that consistency, and maybe it's her last contract. Maybe she
Yeah.
wants to play in New York and then she wants to kind of, call it quits. She's only 31. I know I'm sending her to the retirement home. She's only like 31 years old, but still, that's at the high level. I don't think she's gonna have the same impact maybe
Yeah.
past 2030, but uh, it, maybe she just really loves being there. Chelsea seems like a similar environment. They want to build a strong team. And yet Emma Hayes running the show for how many years there. Gotham kind of seems like a nice equivalent, I would say, to how
Yeah.
they run the program at Chelsea. Maybe that's why.
As an extremely unathletic 35-year-old, I cannot imagine committing somewhere for the next 4 years to
Uh,
play, but good for her.
yeah, I think her. And I mean, one of those years didn't count because she was injured, so she was off
Yeah.
for a year. So really, she got probably the legs of like an elder 20s or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I sent you to the retirement home, Sam. I don't think that you're on on your way out of the league, but she just been part of top level soccer for so long. If you
Yeah.
told me she had been playing for 15 years, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. If you told me that
Yeah.
like she was in her mid 30s, I'd be like, without checking, I'd be like, oh, okay, that sounds about right because she's just been a mainstay. Like Sam Kerr's
Yeah.
just been in the vernacular of international club soccer for since way before it's gotten to this level of excitement and following. So it's a sign of respect, Sam, that I thought that
Yes.
you were on the way out.
Well, any lingering thoughts as we go into these we keep calling it the second half. It's really almost two-thirds given the number of games left, but what are
Yeah.
you thinking?
Three things that I'm thinking about. First, can Mal even save Chicago? I'm really worried about
Yeah.
Chicago. That was the conversation in the media area too, is things aren't great in general. Where are we going to play? Who's on our team? Who's leading our team?
Yeah.
What's going on? There's a lot of just sour feelings, I think, right now in and around Chicago. So that's a storyline at the bottom of the table that they're watching. I said three things, but I really enjoy watching Utah this season. I I have to give credit to Tatum Milazzo, who came back from injury, and her
Yeah.
on the team. It seemed like she's really helped push the team just with the intensity and speed that she plays, and just how Utah, the whole club has turned themselves around is fantastic. And then connecting back to the Challenge Cup, you have two very different stories coming out of
Yeah.
the Challenge Cup. Um, is Kansas City going to look like the team that bounced back from a rough start, or are losing Sentinor and maybe not making a like for like replacement? Are they going to kind of backslide a little bit into the team that we saw at the beginning of the season? And who's going to stop Gotham? I think once Sam gets um, into the team and once they start gelling and being on the same page, that's going to be really frightening, really
Yeah.
scary. Yeah.
Well, and is Utah going to keep up their success? Is
Yeah.
Portland? I mean, I was surprised by that game too, right before the break with them drawing with Portland because Portland just seems so dominant. And I think there's still this question of like, is Utah real?
Yeah.
But I wrote that story during the break. And I mean, they're all bought in. They've got a really balanced team,
Yeah.
but I'm interested to see what happens there. I'm interested to see what happens when Lindsay Heaps joins Denver.
Yeah. there's no shortage of storylines, which I think is
Yeah.
from throughout the standings, which I think is it just bodes well for the league with what's going to come, and I mean bodes well for us because we'll have plenty to write about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. Always so much fun having you here.
Please invite me back all the time, and not just whenever NWSL plays in Columbus because I can't wait 2 years. Just invite me back whenever.
Okay, fair. But you
All right.
are, I guess, our resident Challenge Cup expert.
I am as the one person. I even wore a little like quarter zip. We have these 9 sports quarter zips, so a lot of people were looking at it when I was walking. So that's a name. I was just a billboard. I was just a billboard. I like walking around the stadium before the matches just to like get a vibe, run into people I know, and
Yeah.
so you're already listening to the 9 if you hear this, but tell your friends. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'll link to your articles in the description so people can find them. And where can we find you? What else are you covering for the 9?
Yeah, I am at one Thomas Costello on. I don't think I am on Blue Sky. Just look for Thomas Costello. I'm out there. I am writing mostly about college basketball. I live in Columbus. I've covered Ohio State women's basketball for 5 years, 5 seasons, excuse me. This is my 6th one going into. I am also covering the Big Ten at large, talking to teams, going out to media day, learning stories from other teams within the conference with the 9. But also, I love the sport of soccer. It's kind of the sport that brought me into sports writing in the first place. So I really love doing that too. And also with the WNBA coming to Cleveland in a couple of years, I'm only a couple hours away from Cleveland. Also looking at what's going on there. We're going to see a team branding coming up here in the
Yep.
next couple months. They say in the summer. So summer is very broad, but it's coming up, and they have 8 different names that it could be, the ones that they've trademarked. So we'll see what happens there. And even with NWSL Columbus, I have another piece just talking about what the players thought about Columbus and how Columbus
Yeah.
responded to hosting the match. And I have an extremely long feature that it will go into a city claim wanting the claim of being the capital of girls and women's sports in the United States and telling it through the lens of 2 folks who are these are like the best interviews I've ever done, honestly. And there's so much here that I'm going to cut so much great stuff from this article. But it just talks about these 2 athletes who play football, who play rugby, and they're also best friends, and they're the 2 most interesting people. And I think they really represent well what it means to support women's sports, and not just the women's sports that have multimillionaire owners or who
Yeah.
are getting marketing or investment dollars. These are people playing the sport as the foundation of their city. So I am really excited to tell that story. It will be done this week. I'm already a couple thousand words into it, but I have to sit and really work for hours on it and then step
Yeah.
away just because there is so much that I want to be able to share with everybody. So that's coming too.
Perfect. And I'm excited to sit down and spend hours editing.
I will try my best to self-edit, okay? I'm not going to put it all on your shoulders, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, and we will see you next time, guys.
Bye.